One of the hardest questions I hear from parents is who is going to care for my child when I'm gone? And usually underneath that question is another one. Who could possibly replace me? Because when you stop and you think about everything that you do, the answer feels pretty obvious. No one. No one else is going to know all of the doctors, the routines, the benefits, the school history, the money, the family dynamics, and all those little things that your child needs in quite the way that you do. You're not doing one job. You're not only one person. You're holding an entire system together. So if you're sitting there thinking, there's absolutely no one who could take over everything that I do, I want you to hear this. You might be right, but your plan doesn't need another you. That's one of the biggest shifts that we help families make at Enable. Instead of asking who could replace me, we help parents ask, what am I actually carrying now? And who could carry each part in the future? Because all of those responsibilities don't have to land on one person. And once you really understand that, planning can begin to feel a whole lot more realistic. And honestly, a whole lot more hopeful. I've worked in the planning industry for nearly 2 decades serving families who have loved ones with special needs. And some version of this question comes up all the time. A parent will sit across from me and say, my sister loves my son, but she has her own family. Or our daughter says she'll take care of her brother, but I don't know even see, and I don't know how that would actually work and what that really means. Or we have people who care, but no one who could possibly handle everything. And the first thing I want that parent to understand is this: caring deeply about your loved one and being equipped to carry every future responsibility are not the same thing. The person who loves your child most does not automatically need to be the caregiver and the guardian and the trustee and the benefits expert and the advocate and the person handling every single crisis. It's not a realistic job description. It might not even be a healthy one. So let's slow this down and separate some of the roles. You may need someone who understands your loved one well enough to help with major decisions. That person needs to know what matters to your child, how they communicate, what kind of life that they want, what relationships are important, what supports helps them participate in decisions as fully as possible. And depending on your loved one's needs and the laws where you live, it could include guardianship or supported decision making or some sort of power of attorney or another legal arrangement. But the legal title is only part of it. The person also needs to understand your loved one as a human being. Then there's the day-to-day side of life. Who helps with routines? Who notices when something's off? Who handles the appointments and the transportation and the medications, their unique diet and meals, different community activities, or the practical things that keep their week moving. Sometimes that person is helping with major decisions, is also involved in daily care, but sometimes they're not. Maybe a sibling stays closely involved, but lives several hours away. That can happen. Maybe a paid caregiver handles the day-to-day support. Maybe a residential provider is involved. Maybe one family member stays connected to the big picture while someone local helps manage daily life. Those roles can overlap, but they don't have to. And then there's the money. Who manages the special needs trust? Who understands what the money is for? Who keeps the records? Who knows how distributions could affect these government benefits that we're trying to protect in the first place? Who coordinates with the financial and the tax professionals? That requires a different kind of skill. And then there's a person who knows your loved one best, but they might not be the right person to manage a trust. That doesn't mean they're less important. It just means that they may be better suited for a different role. And the same thing is true with benefits and services. Somebody may need to stay on top of Medicaid and SSI and waiver services and different housing supports or other programs that your child has access to. And if you've dealt with any of these systems before, you know that they can be complicated, to say the least. And they change. And they require renewals. They require paperwork. They require somebody to notice when something has gone wrong. And that may be a family member. It may be a case manager. Maybe a benefits specialist or an advocate or a social worker or another professional. You have a lot of options. Again, that's the point of this is not that every family needs these people right now in their plan. The point is that one person doesn't need to become an expert in every part of the plan. There's also a role that's harder to name, but it still matters as much. Someone needs to help preserve the relationships around your loved one. Who keeps siblings connected? Who helps extended family stay involved? Who notices if your loved one's becoming more isolated? Who remembers the family history and the memories? Who can tell the difference between what looks fine on paper and what actually feels right in real life? And a sibling might be the perfect fit for that role. They may be the person who understands the family in a way that no professional ever will. But that doesn't automatically mean they should also manage the trust and coordinate the caregivers, handle the benefits, and be responsible for every emergency. Sometimes the best thing a sibling can do is remain exactly that. A sibling. They can stay close. They can advocate. They can visit. They can celebrate birthdays and holidays and all of the exciting things in life. They can keep that important relationship without being responsible for every formal part of the plan. So I want to show you how this often gets played out. I'm going to change a few details for privacy, but this is based on a situation we see in different forms with many families. A couple recently came to us with an adult daughter who had significant support needs. They also had a younger son. And for years, everyone had more or less assumed the son would eventually handle everything. He would stay involved with his sister. He would help make decisions. He would oversee the trust in the future. He would coordinate caregivers. He would deal with benefits. He'd be the person everyone called. And the parents thought they were doing the responsible thing by naming him for these roles. But when they finally had an honest conversation with him, they learned something important. He loved his sister deeply. He wanted her to be part of his family's life. He wanted to be involved in major decisions. He wanted to be sure that she was safe and she was treated well. But he also lived in another state. He had young children. And he didn't feel comfortable managing a special needs trust and the complexity of that, or coordinating the daily services. And for the parents, that could have felt like rejection. But it wasn't. It was useful information. It gave the family permission to stop pretending one person could carry everything. And so they began separating the roles. The son could remain closely involved and serve as an important family advocate. A professional trustee could manage the trust. A local care manager could help monitor services and coordinate providers. Paid caregiver or a residential team could support her daily life. And these parents could name backups instead of relying on one person with no support around them. So in this case, the son was still a major part of the plan. He just wasn't the entire plan. And that made their plan actually stronger. That's what building a future support team is really about. It's not about filling out a chart and assigning everyone a title. It's about building a realistic group of people and professionals around your loved one. Some people may be involved now. Some people only become involved later. Some may carry more formal legal roles, while other people may just support relationships or communication or caregiving or helping with benefits or financial decisions. And some roles may change over time, and that's okay. Your team might look very different 10 years from now than it does today. A good plan isn't frozen. It should be able to evolve as your loved one's life evolves and changes. And so now at this point, you may be thinking, it sounds great, but we don't have enough people to build a team like that. Maybe your family's small. Maybe relatives are getting older. Maybe siblings live too far away. Maybe there's conflicts. Maybe there's people who love your child, but they're simply not the right choice or fit for all of these legal and financial and caregiving responsibilities that we've been talking about. It's a real concern. And I don't want to minimize that. But your loved one's future support team doesn't have to be made entirely of relatives. Some roles may be carried out by family members or close friends. Other roles may include professionals. That could mean a professional trustee, a care manager, a paid caregiver, an advocate. Many attorneys can play roles in this. A financial planner, a benefits specialist, a residential provider. There's nonprofit organizations to think through. Or there's many other qualified people who can carry specific responsibilities. We've got to think creative in these situations. Professional options are not always simple, and they typically cost money. They may not be available in every community, and certainly they need to be evaluated carefully by you. And sometimes the right opinion and option today may not be the right person or group or professional 10 years from now. But I want you to remember this. Love is not only the thing that qualifies every major role for your child's future support team. And being related to someone doesn't mean they should be expected to carry a responsibility that they're not prepared for. The future support team that you end up building may look different from the one that you hired or recently imagined. That doesn't make it a bad team. That makes it more of an honest one, and probably a more sustainable one. Now, identifying the people is important, but there's another piece parents often miss: a name in a will, a trust, or another legal document doesn't automatically prepare someone for their role. You may have named your sister as guardian, for example, but that doesn't mean that she understands what your loved one wants and what you want their life to look like. You may have named your brother as trustee, but he doesn't understand how the special needs trust is supposed to support that life. You may expect your other adult child to stay involved with their sibling. But have you talked about what that involvement actually means? Every person needs to understand his or her role. They also need to understand what's not their responsibility. They need to know who else is involved, where important information lives, who to call, who they're expected to talk to and how they're expected to act and how their decisions connect to the rest of your family's plan. The guardian should not assume the trustee is handling caregiving. The trustee should not assume a caregiver is dealing with the benefits. And the caregiver needs to know who can make major decisions. And the siblings, they need to know where to turn if something's not going well. A future support team isn't just a list of names. It's a group of people who understand how they fit together. And I know that might sound like a lot. So I want you to take some pressure off yourself. You don't have to solve the entire future today. You don't need every role and responsibility filled. You don't need every backup confirmed. You don't need to know exactly where your loved one will live 20 years from now. You don't need every professional selected. You just need to begin seeing your family's future plan more clearly. Start with what you're already carrying. Think about your normal week. What do you handle without even realizing it? Who do you call? What decisions are you making? What information only lives in your head? What would be the hardest for somebody else to understand? And then start separating the responsibilities. Which parts require a close relationship? Which parts require technical knowledge? Which parts could be handled by a professional? Which parts could be shared amongst many people? Which ones need a backup person? And which ones have no obvious person yet? And those gaps don't mean that you failed. They simply show you where the plan needs more attention. Then begin the conversations. Don't assume somebody has agreed to serve on your loved one's future support team just because you named them in your will years ago. Still have conversations with them. Talk to them. Explain what you're thinking. Ask what they feel comfortable doing. Ask what concerns about everything. And this is important. Give them permission to be honest. An honest answer like, I can help with this, but I can't do that. For you, that's incredibly valuable. It's much better than a vague promise to take care of everything someday. So let's come back to the original question that we started with. Who will care for your child or loved one when you're gone? The answer likely isn't one specific person, and that is okay. You may need somebody who understands your loved one and helps with major life decisions. Someone else who supports daily life. Another person who manages the trust. Plus someone who understands benefits and services. Family members who preserve relationships and advocate. And then professionals who bring expertise where your family needs it. The goal isn't to find another you. The goal is to build a team that understands your loved one, understands the plan, and knows what each person is responsible for now and in the future. And that's a much more realistic path. And for many families, it's a much more hopeful one. At Enable, we created a free workbook called Who Will Carry What? To help you start thinking through all of this. It'll walk you through the different roles that your loved one may need, the people or the professionals who might carry them, and then the backups you might want to consider, and the conversation your family may need to have to begin this process. And you can download it by using the link below this video. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Which future support team role feels the hardest for you to fill right now? And if you found this information helpful, be sure to subscribe to the Enable Special Needs Planning channel. We're going to keep sharing practical guidance to help you build a clear more coordinated plan for your loved one's future. I'll see you in the next video.